Okay, so let's start to add some detail in the first level. It's looking very blank right now. Let's go ahead and hide the second and third level, and let's just open up the first level here. So one thing we'll notice is that maybe this shouldn't be just a giant mass like that, and that we can do better, right? So let's start to add some detail to it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete it, and let's start over. So what is this layer actually called? It's called concrete slab, right? So a slab isn't actually the whole building mass, right? It's just the floor. So let's consider it as just being the floor. So I'm going to select the solid layer under concrete slab, and I'm going to do extrude curve. But this time I'm going to go negative with it because I want it to be a floor plate that would be in the ground. And so I'm going to go negative 1 foot. So now my curve should be on top and my surface should have extruded downward, right? Cool. Our slab is taken care of. We have our concrete slab. So let's move on to the next location. Let's go ahead and turn on our entry doors. So I've provided you the curves for the entry door. Let's turn off the columns so they don't get in our way. I'm going to just highlight this and zoom into it so I'm nice and close. And we need to do some stuff here, right? So let's first thing first do the easy part. Let's create a layer for our solids. So solid, I'm going to make it red so it's consistent, and I'm going to select that layer. So the first thing we have here is we have these two outside frames. They're already ready and they're in place, so let's just go ahead and extrude those curves, and we're going to be consistent and go 9'6". So now we have the outside of our door frame, and guess this is the best photo. So right here, we just created those two black frames right there, right? So now we need to create the inside frames and the doors. So let's move on to those portions. So I provided the line work for you here. You could see that here's the frame. And then here's the actual door frame versus maybe where the windows would be. So we could call this window frame and this door frame, just for clarity. Okay, so no door ever sits flat like that, right? So we need to put it into in the proper location first. So the best way to do that is to rotate. But we're not just rotating on a plane. We're going to rotate 3-dimensionally. So the command is called rotate 3D. So it asks select objects to rotate. So I'm going to go ahead and select both my door frame and my window frame. And then I'm going to hit enter. And so the first question it asks is start of rotation axis. So it basically wants to know where's our hinge point, right? Where is it going to pivot from and do this? We want to do it off the floor, right? Because that's how we want to bring this thing up. So let's select, and I'm just going to turn off the concrete so it's not in our way. I'm going to select this end point here. And now it's asking end of rotation axis. So we have options, right? Well, really we don't, but it's giving us options. We could either rotate this way, which would do something crazy like that, but that's not correct, right? That's not going to help us. So I'm going to try again. And the correct method would be to run it along the edge that you want it to rotate. So now that I've ran it along that edge, that's going to be my pivot point. And now it's asking angle or reference point. I'm going to choose a reference point, and I'm going to choose that reference point as the top. So I want the top, that's its first location. I want its second location to be upright, so I'm just going to go up. with it. Make sure you have your ortho on. Ortho is going to allow you to either be flat or up. It's going to snap directly upright. If not, you're going to have an option and you're going to be able to kind of do this with it. Make sure your ortho's on and that you click directly upward. So now we've rotated our curves into place. So let's add some thickness to this. So I know for a fact that this window frame is a little bit thinner than our door frame. And so let's go extrude curve. And what I want to do is I want to take advantage of the idea of going in both directions. So let's let our curves be in the center and act as a center point. And so I'm going to turn on both sides. It's right here. So now it's going to extrude in both directions off the center point of this line. So it needs to know how much to extrude. Overall, I want 2 inches. So I should type 1, right? If I type 1, hit enter. Well, I forgot to put inches on there, so it went to feet. So I'm going to do that over. I'm going to go 1 inch. And now you can see it's extruded it 1 inch in either direction and has given us a 2-inch frame. So now we've got that portion taken care of. Let's do the same exact thing with the door frame, but instead of 1, we want it to, or instead of 2 inches, we want it to be 4 inches. So let's type 2. And I did it again. 2 inches. So now if you get in real close, you can see here, it's looking good. I'm going to go in top view just to show you that this doesn't look right. This is our door frame and our window frame here. But it's not really, it's kind of awkwardly intersecting where the columns are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all that information, curves included, and I'm going to move it. So yes. Just because I wanted to show you that you could do that. Yeah. Yeah. I want you guys to move it in place. You want to move the line too? I want you to move everything. So select the lines and the surfaces that we just created. And let's just move it that much, which was 1 inch. So now we're better in place. If we wanted to plan for it ahead of time, we could have, after we rotated the curve upward, we could have moved the curves and then just extruded, but you still had to move no matter what. Okay, so now we have it in place and we're golden. One thing we're missing here is our doors and our windows, right? So let's create those next. And that's what this line is here on the bottom for us. This line is just a straight line that goes from one edge to the other, and it happens to be at the center point. And I can show you in top view, it's the center of everything. So in order to create windows and doors, let's go ahead and extrude this curve, which we've been using this command a lot today. And you notice it's already set up to go both. We don't want to use both anymore, so let's turn both off. And now we're just going to extrude upward. So let's go ahead and make it, I think it was 9'6". And now we have our curve extruded for the whole shape here. So it's not really going to work. It's just one giant plane right now. We need to subdivide it into all the different parts. So first thing I'm going to do so we don't get an issue when we split is I'm going to hide the curves. So that way when we select it, we don't select any curves when we split. So now all we should have here is 3 extrusions. So I'm going to type split. So it's asking to select an object. I'm going to select the plane that I extruded upward. I'm going to hit enter, and now it's asking for cutting objects. So I'm going to select both the door frame and the window frame, and I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see it split it into multiple surfaces. So now it's all broken up. Now, one thing that's hidden that we can't see right now because of our extruded curves is even though it split all the information, it's still there. So you can see if you click it right here, the door frame, the plane that we split from, it's still there. So we actually need to go ahead and delete that information because it's extraneous. And we should have something like that. So that way when you turn on your frames are the only things that are right there. You don't have also a surface hidden in it. And then we're going to just select this top area here. And we don't need that either. So I'm going to hit delete. Okay, so the next thing to do is to add a little bit of thickness to our windows and our doors. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just note that the windows are going to be 1 inch thick and the doors are going to be 2 inches thick. We're going to use the exact same concepts that we used when we created the frames. And so what we're going to want to do is extrude in both directions. So I'm going to type extrude, and it's not curve, it's actually a surface now. And I spelled it wrong, but extrude surface. And I'm going to go ahead and select all the windows at once, which is these outside shapes here, because we can do them all at the same time. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's extruding in one direction, but I want both, so I'm going to select both. Now it's going in both directions. And I'm going to choose a distance of 0.5 inches. And when I do that, it's going to give us a 1 inch surface. Now I need to do the same thing for the door. And before I do the door, no door is going to be this big, so what we actually need to do is split the door in half. So I'm just going to draw a reference line, and I'm going to go line and vertical, and I'm going to select the midpoint object snap down at the bottom, so that way I can select the middle here, and I'm going to take it all the way up the center here. So now I have a line right down the center of the door. So I'm going to select the surface I want to split, hit enter, and then select the line I just drew, and hit enter, and now I have 2 doors. So now they're independent from each other. So I am now going to extrude these surfaces and in both directions, and I'm going to choose a thickness of 1 inch. So that'll give me 2 inch thick doors. So now that we've done that, our surfaces are still hidden inside, right? If you hide those poly surfaces, you're going to see that surface inside. And so to get rid of those, I'm going to go select surface. And it's going to pick all those surfaces for me that are within our solids. And I'm just going to delete them because we don't need them anymore. We have our solid versions. And now one thing we haven't been keeping up with is maybe our layer management. So maybe under entry door, instead of just calling it solid, maybe we should now break it down into components. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it window. And this layer is going to be within entry door. And I'm going to make it a color that's the color of a window. And I'm going to select all the window objects. And I'm going to put them on that window layer. And then maybe I'm going to, again, create a new layer under entry door. And just call it door. And I'm going to select my 2 door pieces, and I'm going to put them on that layer. And then maybe the rest of the information can just stay on solid. Maybe it's not a big deal to actually put the frames on layers. You could if you wanted to. I'm going to change the color of it to like dark gray, so it looks a little more architectural. And now you can see here, everybody's probably looks like this, that we've kind of broken down the components, and we've made it look a little more realistic, right? So this is adding a lot of detail in one spot, whereas before all we did was just create a surface and extrude it up.